Yo, what's up, everyone? Dante here. Um, so I'm just gonna go through real quick the new college football playoff rankings. I was getting the notifications earlier in the evening. Um, Apparently, there's a lot going on in this top 10, especially the first six. So real quick, I'm just gonna go through 25 all the way to about 10, and then then I'll break down what I actually see. So 10 is Pittsburgh, San Diego State, Fresno State, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, NC State, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, BYU, Texas A&M, Auburn, Baylor, and then you got Oklahoma State at 11. Between 11 and 25, nothing's really. I mean, it is what it is. Like, pretty much, if you're lower than I would say maybe four. If you're low, no, well, man, yeah, if you're lower than like 14 on this list, you at this point in the season, you really don't have much of a shot uh to get into the top six. Maybe Baylor could get in, but they'd have to win out, and a lot has to happen. Um, Realistically. So then we'll start at 10. Notre Dame, which is where I thought they'd be. They play a very okay game, I guess. I mean, especially they weren't a great defensively. I mean, they gave up 34 points, but they did put up 44 points. So offensively, they did do just enough to hold them off. Then Wake Forest. Um, I guess you can jump. You could. I don't have a problem with this just because I guess they're undefeated for right now. So as of right now, they haven't shown any reason why they shouldn't be ahead of Notre Dame. Um, Oklahoma is at 8, which they should be. They have no business in the top six, let alone the top four. It, they they're going to they're going to slip up at some point. It's the way their season's been going. It's just there's no way they're going to run the table because then they have Baylor um, next Saturday. Then they got Iowa State and then Oklahoma State. The two of the last three games are at on the road. Um, I really don't see them the way they've been playing this year. I mean, if you take out the TCU game they had and the Texas Tech game they had, every game has been very, very, very scarily close. Especially the Kansas game. Um, I know everyone's all praising Caleb Williams. At the end of the day, he is a freshman. I don't. I mean, he hasn't played any legit competition really these last well 3 games. Texas just keeps falling apart at the end of games. He had Kansas and Texas Tech, so he had some warm up games. But I mean, he's gonna have to go into Waco and then into Stillwater. I mean, that's a lot to. I mean, he can. I mean, he's shown he can play, but I mean, a lot of guys can play, but can he hold up under the pressure? Um, I don't see them staying in the top 10 too much long. One of these weeks they're going to slip up, and no Big 12 team is going to get in with one loss. I don't even think they'd get in even if they're undefeated. Really, if everyone else runs the table, I just don't see that happening. Michigan, they played a close one, Michigan State. Maybe because they pretty much have all winnable games, and then they have the game end of the season against Ohio State. Uh, the way Ohio State's been playing, I don't think I don't think they'll get in. Two losses, they're not getting in at two losses. The only team that's going to get in with, uh, obviously, I mean, uh, yeah, because if they lose, then they'd be two games back, and I mean, if Michigan State holds up, they'll win the East, but Ohio State, a lot can happen. Um, I don't see them making it either, just because that second loss is just going to be. I'm calling it now against Ohio State. The second loss is going to knock them out uh, permanently from the final six. Then you got Cincinnati at six. This I have a real problem with because now, granted, I give them credit for putting Oklahoma at eight because the last few weeks, Oklahoma and Cincinnati have pretty much been playing the same way. Like nothing really flashy on the boards, but they're putting up wins. They keep winning. But for some reason, they want to punish Cincinnati more than Oklahoma, even though technically you can say the American Athletic Conference. You could legit say they have better teams, top to bottom, than the Big 12. You take out Oklahoma, you take out Baylor, you take out Oklahoma State. I guess they don't really. That's they're real top heavy as a conference. Then they have some really bad teams. They got Kansas and Iowa State. I'm not. I don't put much stake in Iowa State. Um, I mean, I believe. I mean, they should run the table, but like I said, the last few weeks they've been kind of iffy. And granted, they're getting up in arms, but they've only done this for 2 weeks. Oklahoma's been doing they've been playing close to the edge like 6 of their 8 games. It's going back to the beginning of the season, and everyone's getting on them. But Cincinnati beat the same Tulane team that Oklahoma only beat by 5 early in the beginning of the season. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think they're not getting the respect that they should deserve. Um, like I said, I think they'll win out because they don't have to play Houston. Um, Cincinnati wins out, which I think they will. Uh, they'll win. They'll basically win the. Well, no, they'll still have to play Houston, I guess, because Houston beat S&M, so they on the tiebreaker if everyone wins out. So there'll be. I mean, it will be in Cincinnati the AAC championship. I think that's what they play. It's a home championship game, I believe, or maybe I'm not too sure. But yeah, very very disrespectful. The committee will find any way, any reason, any way to keep these guys out of it, which is a shame. It really is a shame. Like what do they lose? What do they lose from having Cincinnati in? Because if Cincinnati was to somehow win the whole thing, I mean that the ratings would go up, the press, the social media, everything would go up. It'd go aflame. They'd break the internet. I mean, they'd be the first uh, um, Um, what are they called? Now they call Power Five. No, Power Five is the big leagues, right? Group of Five. Group of Five. They'd be the first Group of Five team to win the championship, and like we're talking about. You'd have to go back to like the freaking '70s, maybe. I'm trying to remember the last like. Yeah, you had to go back to the '80s with like the BYU team. Was it like '84? That's the last time a Group of Five team would have won the championship. Um, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes. Anyway, we have Ohio State, which is five. Uh, Now I'm hoping for this Michigan State game on the 20th because if they, like I said, if Michigan State can beat them, that'll pretty much end all the Ohio State talk. Ohio State will have 2 wins, and then the week after they have Michigan. So I mean, at that point they'll be playing that Michigan game for like bragging rights because at that point Michigan State will. Yeah, I mean they play Penn State the next week, but I mean Penn State's been like really weird recently, especially that game they lost to Iowa. I mean not Iowa, Illinois in what 9 overtimes. Which, by the way, I do not care for that new overtime rule. It's it makes it just as long. I mean it's I don't know. They said it's supposed to shorten the game. It made the game longer, in my opinion. If you would just do what you've been doing, you just keep going possessions and keep going for two. Because at least the old way, the game will end quickly. You throw an interception, a fumble, miss a field goal. A lot of stuff can happen that can end the game shorter. I mean, 2 point conversion, that's kind of, I don't know, gimmicky. Um, Four is Oregon. Uh, let's see. Honestly, I think they'll win out. Unfortunately, um, the only maybe they slip up at Utah because it's in Utah, and then they have the Civil War the next week against Oregon State. So I don't know. There's a lot can happen with that. Yeah, and then they have to play the conference championship next. So if they lose to Utah, and then they got to play Utah again for the conference title. I mean, say they lose that. I mean, they win the Pac-12. They would have 2 losses, but they'd have a loss against a pretty mediocre Stanford team and Utah. But they beat that team again in the Pac-12. But like I said, I don't think anyone gets in with 2 losses. I don't think that's possible. Especially when you got all these, especially when you could have like 3 undefeated teams. You can't put in nobody with 2 losses. Um, Three is Michigan State. Here we go. All right, so they're at 3 right now. Um, so yeah, like I checked earlier. So they have Purdue, Maryland, and I was like Ohio State, and then Penn State. The Braves won the World Series. Congratulations. Um, if they get past Ohio State, then I think they're in because basically like they would still like I think everyone at this point has to. If you don't have a loss, you need to run the table. That's the way I see it. Because even if they run the table, they would have to play. From what it looks like in the West, they most likely, if everything plays out, they'd play Minnesota. Um, and I think that's a winnable game too. So they could end up being 13-0 Big Ten champions. That would automatically keep them in. I would accept that. Undefeated Big Ten champion, definitely in. Um, like I said, at this point, like I said, if Cincinnati runs the table and Ohio State was to lose to Michigan State, Oregon doesn't. Oregon has another loss. You can't keep those two in because everyone else behind. Like you can't throw Oklahoma over Cincinnati. Um, if Wake runs the table, maybe. I guess you can give a case for Wake because they would have the last uh, stretch of games. They had 3 or 4 on the road, and then they'd have the championship game. So if they beat like right now, they would play probably Pitt. So that would be a quality win, and they're champions. Like I said, they'd have to go undefeated because they're Wake Forest is essentially the only team out of the ACC that would that has any shot at this. And Notre Dame, obviously, that 10. I mean, I think they'll win out, but I don't think they'll get in because they don't have a conference, unfortunately. So even with Navy wins over Navy, Virginia, Georgia Tech, and Stanford, I mean they'll be what 11-1. But I mean with no championship game, like I said, a lot would everyone up top would have to lose. Like I said, you'd have to hope for everyone to have like 2 losses. And that's not. I mean, for most things, that's not gonna happen. The only, like I said, the only exception is like Ohio State or Oregon. If them guys lose two, that's 2 spots. But then you'd have to move Cincinnati in if they went out. And like I said, Michigan has 1 loss, so they're playing with a very fine line. And like I said, Oklahoma, they lose. That's it. There's no Big 12 team. Um, there's no Big 12 team that's getting in with 1 loss, and there's no Pac-12 team that's going to get in with 2 losses. Like Oregon has to run the table. It's so much. Like I said, so there's a lot that has to happen for this to play out. Um, but yeah, like a lot. You still have a lot of football left. You still got 4 weeks and championships. So you said you got the rest of so basically you got all of November, maybe that first week of December. So like, there's still a lot of football to play. A lot can happen in a month. Yeah, so I guess the last week of the season will be December 4th, and I guess bowl games. I mean, not bowl championship week will be the week after, I guess, or the week of the 4th. No, it'll be the week of the 4th. The week of the 4th would be the championship games and all that, and then Sunday would be the final rankings. And I think on the 11th, because there'd be no game. I think the 11th or the 10th would be the Heisman Trophy ceremony. I think the ceremony is on the 11th, I think, and then the awards on the 10th, if I'm correct. That's usually because usually there's no football the last week. I think the only game is maybe the Army Navy game. I think that's the only game that because they kind of give it its own spotlight because I mean it's the Army academies, it's the armed forces, armed force school. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean I always watch that game every year if I remember it's on. But I try to watch it because like I'm a big Navy fan because I'm from the area, so I watch Navy. It was cool when they got into a conference. I still don't like that they don't run. it's 2021 and they're still running the triple option. I don't understand that. There must be some reason for that. Anyway, two is Alabama. Um, I mean, at this point, like the way they've been playing, they're not losing the game, man. They did everything in their power to make sure Alabama would get into this thing, which is a damn shame. It really is. It's a shame. These guys would do anything to have Alabama in this conversation. Anything. They didn't deserve it. They lost the game. Everyone else got punished for losing games. You lost one game. You should be punished all the same. And at the end of the day, you have to go out there and play football. If you lose, you lose. But you don't get rewarded for losing. And then you come back and you play Tennessee and Mississippi State. No, what? And then they have LSU, which is they're mediocre. Let's be real. They're mediocre. Then they have New Mexico State. I don't know how did they even pull that off. Everyone else has all their cupcakes at the beginning of the season. They had Mercer, they had Southern Miss, and well, I guess to be fair, I'll give them credit. They I'll give them credit for scheduling one less. But I think because they have non-conference games. That is one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. They what? Oh, okay. Alabama only played 5 games. Okay, yeah. So they had LSU, New Mexico State, then Arkansas was falling apart since that 4-0 start. Everyone was gassing them up. I was like, no, don't do that. That's happened twice this year when they every Saturday on game day they do like a special story about a team or a person or a player. And one week they did a story on on Arkansas about the 4-0. Oh, they're coming up. They're coming back. They're going to be a winning program, and they're 4-0. They starting well, and then they got mollywop 2 straight weeks, and then they fell out the rankings, and now they're 5-3 after starting 4-0, and then they like the week later they were talking about Kentucky, which I did say they only set up that with a no the I said it was the week before. They only set up the Arkansas ranking like that so they can have it as like a ranked match, but it didn't deserve to be a ranked match, and it was proven on the field. Who they play that week? Um, it was the Georgia game. Yeah, I think the Arkansas was like ranked eighth, and they wanted to make it like a big old uh, top 10 match or whatever, which it didn't deserve to be a top 10 match. They got shut out. That's not a top 10 performance. It's not a top 10 team. And then they have the Iron Bowl. The Iron Bowl is a toss up. So if Auburn can pull this off and beat them, then we can finally put this to rest. Because Alabama won't. They won't be playing for the championship. There's no way they get in with 2 losses and no championship game. That's not possible. There's no way they get in at 10-2 and finish in the second in the division. They didn't even. They're not second in the conference, second in the division. With that I really don't like this, man. It's stupid. And then you got Georgia, number one, who's pretty much been number one the whole season. Let's be real. So they got Missouri. They have Tennessee. They have. I'm Charleston Southern. Charleston Southern. They cupcakes. I don't know if this is a like a SEC thing or what. They are having all these cupcakes at the end of the season. Come on, man. Everyone else got to play actual teams. No disrespect to Charleston Southern, but it's like at this late in the season, you need to be playing actual opponents. You know what I mean? They're a real football team, but they don't compare to Georgia. Come on, man. Who said that? And then they have the in-state rivalry, Georgia Tech. So they should win out. They'll be number one. They'll be fine. Um, I'm concerned though because if they run the table and Alabama runs the table, they'll meet in the championship. Um, I'd rather have Auburn, but Auburn has to do work because they're 6-2, but they're right behind Alabama. But Auburn has three of the last four games against ranked teams. They got Texas A&M, Mississippi State, and Alabama. So I mean, it's very possible they can go into the Iron Bowl. Depending on what happens with these games, they could realistically be like 7-4 at that point, which is not good. You want Auburn to run the table because Auburn runs the table, beats Alabama, they win the division, and then we don't have to hear about this Alabama foolishness anymore, and we'll have the team. I mean, all in all, judging from these rankings, it's real easy to see. Um, it's real easy to see what uh what the committee thinks. They're very biased, especially with these Power Five teams. They did everything in their power. You basically put Cincinnati in no man's land because even if they run the you made it where the team that already has to rely on everyone else, you made them more dependent on every other team as it is. Instead of just you don't you stop making it about the game on the field, and it's more like a politics thing. You don't respect them, but then you'll somehow put Oklahoma in if they run the table, even though they've had three, four, five really close games against really, let's be real, really bad team. Like I keep saying, the AAC as a whole is a better conference than the Big 12. I will say that every time this season. I'll say that every time I'll down that hill. The AAC is a better conference this season than the Big 12. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. So yeah. Anyway, um, there were some shocks in this uh, ranking. The first one, um, but at least from the top like 15 teams, um, But I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the next final month of the season. How what's going to happen with teams and who's going to win, and who's going to lose, and just how everything's going to get jumbled up, and it'll be a hopefully if teams come to play and play like they're supposed to, they can actually we'll actually see something different for once. You know what I mean? But I love football, man, especially college football. But it gets to the point where like it's every year. They try their hardest to get the same 2 to 4 teams, or at least back in the day with the BCS, they'll try their hardest to get the same 2 teams, and then with the playoff system, they're trying their hardest to get the same 4 teams to play for this championship every year, and it's like, I mean, I guess sure, but it's like, look, I understand you can weight a win differently. I understand it's different, beating Tulane is not the same as beating Florida. I get that, but all I think all losses mean the same. You know what I mean? That's what I believe. It doesn't matter if you lose to Michigan State or you lose to Duke or something. You know what I'm saying? A loss is a loss. Because then I think if you start if you start judging losses differently from team to team, then you give off the impression that, oh, because you're this institution, we're gonna give you special treatment because we want you to we want you to be at the forefront, even though you didn't play well, you didn't deserve to win the game. That's why you lost. But we're gonna give you like a crutch, like a mulligan. You know, well, you wouldn't give a mulligan to Cincinnati, but you give a mulligan to Oklahoma. Oklahoma was, they were like 55 minutes away from losing to Kansas, and they almost lost to West Virginia in the season. And if Texas didn't fall apart in the fourth quarter, they lost that too. And it's like like I said, if you win, you win. You know what I'm saying? You win advance. That's cool. No problem with that. But when you lose, you lose. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I don't know. I've been looking at this for 30 minutes. I was gonna make this like 10 minutes. I ain't mean to make this 30 minutes. Jesus Christ. Uh, but yeah, we'll see what happens this coming weekend. What kind of foolishness is going to happen? I mean, I'll be looking at this top 10 list, especially Notre Dame, even though they have such a long shot to go. But I got faith. Like I said, a lot can happen in 4 weeks. Like I said, a lot of these teams won't be in the same spot they are now, and by the end of November, that I can promise you that. But yeah, if you saw this video, thanks for watching. If you're a college football fan, let me know what you think of the rankings. What you think of Cincinnati being all the way basically to the outside looking in, and yeah, also let me know what your favorite team is. All right. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Peace.